So it sounds like while you were there, partnerships and building these relationships was actually vital to the
Yeah.
success of StubHub. So when you went out and tried to find partners, how did you scout these partnerships? And did you have a
It
like a,
was well, yeah, I mean, they're pretty obvious. I mean, it's in sports and in music. I mean, the teams and the leagues are, are obvious, but the relationships are not obvious. So, we had partners that we were paying tens of millions of dollars to that didn't talk to us because we didn't have great relationships. We didn't have people that looked at that as a relationship. So, as much as these things seem like they're corporate, at the end of the day, everything in business, everything in entrepreneurship, ultimately is a commitment between two human beings that say, we trust one another, we want to work together, and here's how we can do it. So that's what it took for us to change that, and it still is a process.
yeah, were some of the partnerships kind of a bit rocky in the beginning and didn't have good communication?
Oh yeah,
and you,
absolutely. I mean, StubHub itself is a controversial business. I mean, it was it's a business that literally didn't existed, but not in a marketplace. It existed in the alleyway and in the street corner, and StubHub decided to disrupt that, move that experience offline and into a transparent marketplace with a guarantee that you were going to be protected in that transaction, and created a $10 billion category in the United States alone. I mean, it's unbelievable.
did you have any strategies in kind of going into partnership meetings or?
No, I mean, I think the other biggest strategy was really taking the business global. I mean, it was a business that was uniquely positioned in the U.S., but people go to events around the world. So one of the big strategic decisions was taking the business globally. So we expanded from 4 countries to 48 countries.
To 48 countries
48
now.
countries.
Currently operating in
Yep.
in 48
Yep.
different countries.
Yep.
It's amazing. And going back to the two-sided marketplace,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had to deal with that kind of through the course of your career several times. Do you find it harder to build the buying side of it or the selling side of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, demand-driven marketplaces are super powerful. But ultimately, you do need supply. So the example is, StubHub built its brand and its experience because it was creating this opportunity that didn't exist. Ultimately, you did have to have something that you were selling on the
Right.
supply side.
Right.
When I came, it was like, hey, we got to focus on the supply side to make sure this buying flywheel, continues to operate. eBay started by creating a marketplace for opportunity for sellers. I mean, Pierre, who started it, sold a laser pointer, and that was the first thing that transacted on eBay, and it's almost $100 billion marketplace today
Right.
globally, providing opportunities for sellers to reach buyers around the world. And we've got 170 million people every day that want to shop on eBay.
Do you have favorite thing you ever bought off of eBay?
I've been buying. I'm most proud of in the last month having sold $1,000 worth of things.
All right.
On eBay, and I've been raising money for a girls' school that we support in Africa, and I'm trying to essentially sell things to fund donating to this school in Africa.
What's in the eBay store that you have?
Tonight I'm putting up a Garmin 520 on my bike, and I'm putting up 2 Apple Watches that just got purchased in our home and never used.
So if anyone's looking for some Apple Watches, going up later tonight. So when you're looking to expand globally with StubHub, you can't do it alone, so you're going to need to build a team.
Yeah.
How do you go about starting to build this team that's going to spread StubHub to 48 different countries?
It's the hardest thing to do as a leader, and that's where, as a leader, you have to have the ability to attract a group of people that are willingly choosing to work for you and with you. And and I think as a leader, trying to build a leadership team that, as was read to open this up, reflects the diversity of the customer base and the employee base. And those are really important as a leader to be focused on. So at StubHub, I always felt as though running StubHub, the two things that I uniquely controlled in my position, even though the whole business reported to me, I felt as though I could influence strategy, what direction we were going to go, and I could influence culture, like what is the place that we call work going to look like every day, and I could influence both of those things in my position directly, and so I spent a lot of time focused on those two things.
How did you influence culture while at StubHub?
Culture, I gave the power to the people to build up and define what was going to be uniquely StubHub. So we started something called StubHub One, which was how we would operate as one team to connect people to inspiring event experiences, and literally empowered a team of culture carriers around the world to come up with ideas that made it a fun place to work every single day. And then I used those people to drive programs like diversity and inclusion, women in technology, areas that I knew were opportunities for StubHub, but yet I needed people to, drive it home, make it come to life. And that came through the employees. It couldn't come from me top down. It had to be empowered from the bottom up.
And how did you guys have any programs to drive this empowerment internally?
You have to put money behind it, and then you've got to support it as a leader. And so whether that's marching in parades, showing up to intern events, hosting dinners with different people with different voices and perspectives, it has to be a regular percentage and a significant percentage of your time as a leader, if that's important to you, and it is to me.
Yeah, and you had 800 people under you at one point?
No, at StubHub we had about 1,500 people.
1,500 people.
Yeah.
That you were responsible for?
Yeah.
And how do you, that's a lot of people to be responsible for. Yeah. How do you show up to each one of them and kind of convey that you personally care about them, even if you couldn't personally care about all of them?
You just try and be reachable as a leader and as a person. It's tough to know 1,500 people, let alone 20,000 people individually. But I think as a leader, the way I tried to do that is I was pretty transparent with the things that I felt as though I needed to work on as an individual and as a leader. And I was pretty transparent with my team of here are the things that I feel are my weaknesses, and here are the things that I'm working on as a leader. And I was pretty transparent with the company to say, here's what I've got to do better at. And I think that at least opened the crack for people to say, oh yeah, he's a human being.
And on the other side of building this team and expanding globally, and kind of bringing a new image to StubHub, along the way there had to have been some bumps in the road and some failures that I'm sure you had to fight through. Can you share some of the things that didn't work out?
I think if I would sort of describe, failure I would describe failure as an important part of the process of learning, because I think failure and your ability to recognize failure and your ability to recognize weaknesses gives you a position to say, okay, here's the things that I can actually work on to strengthen. If I was only focused on the muscle that was strongest, you'd be out of balance. And so I think failure is important to recognize as an individual, as a company, and use those as opportunities to learn, to build, and hopefully change. And that's hard. It's hard to do, and very few people have the ability to be self-aware enough to recognize their own weaknesses and failures. I think it's hard for me. It's hard for most people. But boy, if you can get there and work on that, you'll unlock amazing opportunities for growth.
Was there something there?